The silk sheets were tangled around two bodies that weren't supposed to be there. I stood in the doorway of my own bedroom, shopping bags from Preston's favorite bakery still in my hands, watching my husband of 5 years with a woman I once called friend. They didn't hear me. The penthouse was too large, the carpet too plush, their activities too consuming. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the anniversary cake I'd picked up onto their naked bodies. Instead, I set the bags down silently in the hallway, pulled out my phone, and took exactly 3 photos. The camera didn't make a sound. I'd turned that feature off years ago because Preston hated when my phone made noise during his business calls. Walking backwards in my heels without making a sound was harder than I expected, but I managed. The elevator doors closed on my former life, and only then did my hands start shaking. Not from sadness. From pure, crystallized rage. My name is Naomi Jenkins and I'm 32 years old. I'd spent the last 5 years making myself smaller so Preston Jenkins could feel bigger. I'd given up my thriving interior design business to be the perfect billionaire's wife. I'd smiled through charity galas where his colleagues' wives whispered about my background. I'd pretended not to notice the lipstick stains and perfume smells that weren't mine. But walking in on him with Brittany Cross, the woman who'd borrowed my notes in college and never returned them, the woman who'd cried on my shoulder about her cheating ex, the woman I'd invited to our wedding out of misplaced nostalgia? That was the final thread. I sat in my car in the underground parking garage for 20 minutes, not going anywhere, just breathing. My phone buzzed. Preston's name flashed on the screen. Where are you? I thought you were shopping. Want to grab dinner? The audacity made me laugh out loud in the empty car. He didn't even know I'd been home. Didn't know I'd seen everything. He probably planned to shower, spray some cologne, and pretend he'd been working in his home office all day. I typed back. Something came up. Don't wait for me. Then I drove to the one place I knew I could think clearly. Rochelle's house in Brooklyn. My best friend since high school took one look at my face and pulled me inside without questions. Her apartment was small compared to my penthouse, but it felt like home in a way my marble palace never had. What happened? Rochelle asked, pouring me tea without asking if I wanted any. She knew I did. I showed her the photos. Rochelle's brown eyes went cold. That piece of trash. And with Brittany? I never liked that girl. Remember when she tried to take credit for your design project senior year? I need a lawyer, I said. My voice sounded strange. Calm. Detached. The best divorce attorney in the city. Someone who can move fast and hit hard. You're not going to try counseling? Or confront him first? Rochelle asked carefully. I met her eyes. He's done this before. I found hotel receipts 2 years ago. Charges at jewelry stores for pieces I never received. I told myself I was being paranoid. That he worked late because he was building an empire. But I knew Rochelle. Deep down I always knew. I just didn't want to admit I'd made a mistake marrying him. You didn't make a mistake. He's the one who broke vows. No, I made a mistake staying after the first time I suspected. I made a mistake believing him when he said I was imagining things. I made a mistake thinking his money and status made up for how small he made me feel. I set down the teacup. But I'm not making any more mistakes. I want out, and I want him to know this wasn't a negotiation. Rochelle pulled out her laptop. My cousin's wife is a partner at Morrison & Associates. They handle high-profile divorces. Discretion guaranteed, and they don't lose. Within an hour, I had a consultation scheduled for first thing Monday morning. It was Friday evening now. I had the entire weekend to plan. Stay here tonight, Rochelle said. Antonio's working the night shift at the hospital so you can have the guest room. We'll order food and figure out your next steps. Preston will wonder where I am. Let him wonder. You've spent 5 years managing his feelings. He can manage his own for once. She was right. I texted Preston again, staying at Rochelle's tonight. Need some friend time. I almost added an apology out of habit but deleted it. I didn't owe him comfort anymore. His response came quickly, whatever. Don't forget we have the charity gala tomorrow night. Wear the blue dress. I stared at the message. Even now he was telling me what to wear. Making decisions about my time. Assuming I'd fall in line like always. Change of plans, I told Rochelle. I'm not just getting a divorce. I'm taking back everything he made me give up. Starting with myself. That night I made a list. All the joint accounts I had legal access to. The investment properties purchased during our marriage. The gifts his mother had given me that were legally mine. The car titled in my name. I hadn't worked in 5 years but I'd been married to a billionaire. The prenup Preston insisted on had loopholes his lawyer probably thought I was too unsophisticated to notice. But I'd read every word of that document 3 times before signing. I might have been blinded by love, but I'd never been stupid. By Sunday night I had a plan. Monday morning I'd meet with the attorney. Monday afternoon I'd start moving assets. By Monday evening I'd be ready to serve papers. Preston called 6 times over the weekend. I answered twice, keeping my voice light and normal. Yes, I'd be at the gala. Yes, I was fine. No, nothing was wrong. Just needed time with Rochelle. He never asked what we talked about. Never asked if I was okay. He just wanted to confirm I'd be where he needed me, wearing what he wanted, smiling for the cameras. I'd smile all right. But it would be the last time I performed for Preston Jenkins. Monday morning arrived with crystal clear skies. I dressed in a green suit I'd bought years ago, before Preston started dictating my wardrobe. It still fit perfectly. At Morrison & Associates' downtown office, I was ushered into a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Attorney Patricia Morrison was 50, silver-haired, and had eyes that missed nothing. She listened to my story without interruption, occasionally making notes on her tablet. "You have photos?" she asked. I slid my phone across the table. She examined each image with professional detachment. "These are good. Clear, date-stamped, metadata intact. What about the prenup?" I pulled out my copy, already tabbed at the relevant sections. Patricia's eyebrows rose slightly as she flipped through my annotations. "You've done your homework," she said approvingly. "Most people don't bother reading these things properly." I read everything I sign. Smart woman. Patricia leaned back in her chair. "Here's the situation. The prenup protects his premarital assets and his company. However, property acquired during the marriage is fair game. You're entitled to half of all marital assets. The infidelity also gives us leverage, though New York is no fault, it matters for negotiations." "I don't want negotiations," I said firmly. "I want what's legally mine and I want out fast." Patricia smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a shark spotting blood in the water. "I like you already. Let's talk strategy." We spent 3 hours going through everything. The condo in Miami purchased 2 years ago. The investment portfolio Preston's advisor set up in both our names. The car collection. Even the artwork in our penthouse, most of which I'd selected and purchased with marital funds. "You'll need somewhere to stay once we serve papers," Patricia advised. "He'll likely try to force you out of the penthouse, claim it's his premarital property." "It is his premarital property," I confirmed. "I don't want it anyway. Too many bad memories." "Good. That makes things cleaner. Find an apartment this week. We'll serve him Friday at his office. Public, professional, lots of witnesses. Men like Preston Jenkins hate being embarrassed. It'll throw him off balance." I left the law office feeling lighter than I had in years. My next stop was a bank Preston didn't know about. Years ago, before we married, I'd opened an account at a small credit union. It had maybe $2,000 in it, money from design jobs I'd done in college. I'd never closed it. Now I reopened it fully, updating my information, setting up online access. This would be my safe account, where I'd move money that was legally mine. The joint checking account had $47,000 in it. Money Preston deposited for household expenses. I was authorized to withdraw up to $50,000 without his signature. I transferred $45,000 to my new account. He might notice, but by the time he did, it wouldn't matter. Next, I visited the storage unit I'd rented that morning. It cost $200 a month, paid from my new account. Over the next few days, I'd fill it with everything I wanted from the penthouse. My clothes, my books, my personal items. All the things Preston thought were his because they lived in his space. Rochelle met me for lunch. "How'd it go with the lawyer?" "Better than expected. We're serving him Friday." "This Friday?" Rochelle's eyes widened. "That's 4 days away. The sooner I'm out, the better." I picked at my salad. "I need to find an apartment. Something small, manageable. Somewhere that's mine." "I'll help you look." Rochelle squeezed my hand. "You're doing the right thing, Naomi. I know it doesn't feel good right now, but you are." "It feels terrifying," I admitted. "I haven't worked in 5 years. What if nobody wants to hire me? What if my skills are outdated?" "Girl, please. You made a name for yourself before Preston came along. Your portfolio speaks for itself. Besides, you've been managing that entire penthouse, planning parties for hundreds of people, coordinating with vendors. Those are skills." She was right, but fear still gnawed at me. Preston had always said I didn't need to work, that his money was our money. But it was never our money. It was his money that he allowed me to spend. There's a difference. That afternoon, I viewed 6 apartments. 5 were terrible. The sixth was a two-bedroom in a renovated building in Manhattan. Hardwood floors, big windows, a kitchen that actually had counter space. It was a tenth the size of the penthouse but felt twice as warm. "I'll take it," I told the landlord. "Don't you want to think about it? Discuss with your husband?" "I'm separated. The apartment is for me alone. I can pay 6 months up front." I'd liquidated some stock that morning. Money that was legally mine from the investment account. The landlord's attitude shifted from skeptical to pleased. "When do you want to move in?" "This weekend." Over the next 3 days I became a ghost in my own home. Preston was busy with some business deal, leaving early and coming home late. He didn't notice me packing boxes in the spare bedroom we used for storage. Didn't see me taking photos of every room for my records. Didn't realize I was cataloging which items were purchased during our marriage versus before. I hired a moving company for Thursday evening. Preston had a dinner meeting that night. By the time he got home at 11, an entire bedroom of boxes would be gone to my storage unit. He never went in that room anyway. Wednesday afternoon, Patricia called. "I need you to come sign the divorce petition. Everything's ready to file." At her office, I signed my name on document after document. Petition for divorce. Financial affidavit. Request for equitable distribution. With each signature, I felt pieces of my old life falling away. "One more thing," Patricia said. I had my investigator do some digging. "Your husband has been unfaithful with at least 4 different women in the past 3 years. We have hotel records, credit card statements, witness testimonies. If he tries to fight the settlement, we have ammunition." 4 women. My stomach turned. "Do you have their names? Are you sure you want to know?" I thought about it. "No. It doesn't matter who they were. What matters is that he chose them over honoring his vows. That's all I need to know." Thursday evening the movers came as scheduled. I let them in with a key, directing them to take everything from the spare bedroom and half the items from my closet. Preston's things I didn't touch. I wasn't a thief. Just a woman taking back what belonged to her. When Preston came home that night I was in bed reading. He didn't check the spare room. Didn't look in my closet. He kissed my forehead absently and went to shower. The gesture felt like a betrayal all over again. How dare he act affectionate when I knew where his lips had been? Friday morning I dressed in a red suit. Power color. War color. I kissed Preston goodbye at the door like always, waving as he got into his car. He'd be at the office in 30 minutes. Patricia and her process server would be there in 35. I waited until his car disappeared, then I walked back inside the penthouse and looked around at the life I was leaving. 5 years of playing a role. 5 years of being Mrs. Preston Jenkins instead of Naomi. My phone buzzed. "Patricia, papers served." "He's very angry. Throwing things. Security is handling it." I texted back, "Good." Then I called a locksmith to change the locks on my new apartment, even though I hadn't officially moved in yet. I wasn't taking any chances. By noon, Preston had called me 17 times and sent 43 texts. I blocked his number. He tried calling from his office line. Blocked. He had his secretary call. Blocked. Finally, a text came through from an unknown number. "You'll regret this. You're nothing without me. You'll come crawling back within a month. Nobody leaves Preston Jenkins." I saved the text, forwarded it to Patricia and replied, "Watch me." Preston showed up at Rochelle's apartment Friday evening. I'd expected it, so I'd already moved my car 2 blocks away. When Rochelle texted that he was banging on her door, I told her not to answer. He left after 20 minutes, but not before shouting through the door that I was making the biggest mistake of my life. Rochelle's neighbors called the building security. Preston was asked to leave the property and told not to return. "He's lost his mind," Rochelle said when I called her back. "I've never seen him like that." "That's because nobody's ever told him no before." I was at my new apartment, sitting on the floor since my furniture wouldn't arrive until tomorrow. His ego can't handle rejection. Saturday morning, I woke up on an air mattress in my empty apartment and felt more peace than I'd experienced in years. My phone had been quiet since I'd blocked Preston's numbers. Patricia had informed him all communication needed to go through her office. Around noon someone knocked on my door. I checked the peephole. Preston stood there in jeans and a t-shirt, looking nothing like the polished billionaire I'd married. He looked tired. Desperate. "Naomi, please. I know you're in there. Your car is parked outside." His voice was rough. "Just talk to me for 5 minutes. Let me explain." I said nothing, didn't move. After a moment he continued talking to the door. "It didn't mean anything. Those women, they were just stress relief. You're my wife. You're the one I love. I made a mistake, okay? I'm sorry. Just come home and we'll work this out. I'll go to counseling. Whatever you want. Whatever I want. As if he'd ever cared about what I wanted. I pulled out my phone and started recording his words. Evidence, Patricia had said, was always useful. Naomi. His voice took on an edge. You're being ridiculous. So I slept with a few women. That's what powerful men do. You knew what you were getting into when you married me. Stop being dramatic and come home. There it was. The real Preston. Not the apologetic husband but the entitled man who thought his wealth bought him immunity from consequences. I've already called your parents, he said. They agree you're overreacting. Your mother said you've always been too sensitive. My mother. Of course he'd called her. She'd been thrilled when I married Preston, constantly reminding me how lucky I was to land a billionaire. She'd never approved of my interior design career, thought it was frivolous. Preston's money validated me in her eyes. I'm not leaving this door until you talk to me, Preston said. I called building security. There's someone harassing me in the hallway. I need them removed. The guard arrived within 3 minutes. Through the peephole, I watched Preston's face transform from pleading to furious. Do you know who I am? He demanded. I'm Preston Jenkins. I could buy this entire building. Sir, the tenant has asked you to leave. Please don't make me call the police. Preston's jaw clenched. He looked at my door one more time. This isn't over, Naomi. You think you can survive without me? You'll be broke in 6 months. Come crawling back and maybe I'll consider taking you back. The guard escorted him to the elevator. I watched through the peephole until I was sure he was gone, then I sank onto my air mattress and let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then another unknown number. Another voicemail. Preston was using different phones to get around my blocks. I forwarded all the voicemails to Patricia without listening to them. Sunday my furniture arrived. Not much, just what I'd bought new. A bed, a couch, a kitchen table. Everything in my new apartment was chosen by me for me. No marble countertops or designer fixtures. Just comfortable, livable space. Rochelle came over with pizza and wine. How are you holding up? Better than I expected. Worse than I hoped. I poured wine into paper cups since I hadn't bought real glasses yet. He showed up yesterday. I heard. Building security called to confirm you were okay. They have his photo now. He's not allowed within 100 feet of the property. Good. I took a sip of wine. My mother called this morning. 47 missed calls from her. I finally answered. She spent 20 minutes telling me I was throwing away my life, that I'd never find another man like Preston, that I was being stupid and selfish. What did you say? I told her she was right. I'd never find another man like Preston because I didn't want another man like Preston. Then I hung up. Rochelle clinked her paper cup against mine. That's my girl. Monday morning, I sat down at my laptop and did something I hadn't done in 5 years. I updated my interior design portfolio. My old website was still active, frozen in time from when I'd last logged in. The work displayed there was good but dated. I needed new projects. I spent the day reaching out to old clients, colleagues, anyone who might remember Naomi the designer instead of Mrs. Preston Jenkins. Some didn't respond. Others were enthusiastic but had no current projects. One, however, responded within an hour. Jennifer Wu, a commercial real estate developer I'd worked with before my marriage. I heard you were available again. Any interest in redesigning a boutique hotel in Soho? Budget is substantial. Timeline is 6 months. I almost cried. Very interested. When can we meet to discuss details? We scheduled a meeting for Wednesday. It wasn't the massive corporate contract I dreamed of, but it was a start. It was proof that I could still do this without Preston's name opening doors. Tuesday afternoon, Patricia called. Preston's attorney contacted us with a settlement offer. He'll give you $250,000 and the Miami condo if you sign an NDA and agree not to speak publicly about the divorce. I laughed. No. I told him you'd say that. You seem shocked. Apparently Preston is confident you'll take whatever he offers because you need the money. What am I legally entitled to? Based on marital assets, probably closer to $3 million plus half the investment portfolio. We're still calculating exact numbers. He's trying to lowball you significantly. Counter with $5 million, the Miami condo and the art collection. No NDA. Aggressive. I like it. I could hear Patricia's smile through the phone. He'll reject it. I know. But let's see how much he's willing to pay to make this go away quietly. That evening I FaceTimed with Rochelle. I have a meeting Wednesday for a hotel redesign project. That's wonderful. Rochelle's face glowed on the screen. See? You're already landing on your feet. I'm terrified I've forgotten how to do this. Naomi, you were brilliant at design. That doesn't just disappear because you took a few years off. Trust yourself. Trust myself. I'd spent so long trusting Preston, believing his version of reality over my own instincts. Learning to trust myself again felt like learning to walk after an injury. Wednesday morning, I dressed in a blue blazer and black pants. Professional, confident, competent. Jennifer's office was in Tribeca, all glass and steel and modern furniture. She greeted me with a hug. You look good, she said. Different from the last time I saw you. That was at my wedding. I remember. You were glowing then. You're glowing now, but it's a different kind of glow. This one looks like freedom. We spent 2 hours going over the hotel project. 15 rooms, each needing complete renovation. Boutique style, targeting young professionals and couples. Budget of $800,000. Was perfect. When can you start? Jennifer asked. Immediately. She smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. I'll have the contract drawn up by Friday. Walking out of that meeting, I felt 10 feet tall. I had a project. I had purpose. I had proof that I existed outside of Preston's shadow. My phone buzzed. Patricia, he rejected the counteroffer. Offered $500,000. Still wants the NDA. I typed back, let him sweat. I'm not negotiating until he takes me seriously. Because that was the thing Preston never understood. I didn't need his money to be somebody. I'd been somebody before him. And I'd be somebody after him. The next 2 weeks were a blur of work and legal maneuvering. Preston raised his settlement offer to $750,000. Patricia advised me to wait. He's desperate. Men like him can't stand being told no. The longer you hold out, the more reasonable our counter looks. The hotel project consumed my days. I met with contractors, selected materials, sketched designs until my hand cramped. It felt like coming home to myself. Every decision was mine alone. No Preston second-guessing my choices or suggesting I pick something more expensive to show off. The first room I designed featured deep red walls with blue accents. A brass bed frame I found at an estate sale. Vintage artwork from local artists. When Jennifer saw the mock-up, she actually gasped. This is stunning, Naomi. This is exactly what I wanted but couldn't articulate. Pride swelled in my chest. Thank you for trusting me with this. I should thank you for being available. I tried 3 other designers first. None of them understood the vision. You got it immediately. The validation meant everything. For 5 years, Preston had subtly undermined my confidence. Little comments about how interior design was cute but not serious work. How real power came from business and finance, not picking out curtains. I'd internalized those messages, started believing my work wasn't important. But Jennifer's boutique hotel would be featured in design magazines. Would bring in guests who appreciated thoughtful aesthetics. Would be a space that improved people's lives, even if just for a weekend stay. That mattered. Meanwhile, Preston's harassment continued in new forms. Since he couldn't contact me directly, he started showing up places he knew I'd be. The dry cleaner near my apartment. The coffee shop where I worked some mornings. Always with the same pleading expression, the same desperate words. Please, Naomi. I miss you. I made a mistake. Don't throw away 5 years over one indiscretion. One indiscretion. Patricia's investigator had documented 4 affairs. Probably more that we hadn't uncovered. But in Preston's mind, his actions were a single lapse in judgment. I never spoke to him during these encounters. Just gathered my things and left. Silence, I'd learned, was more powerful than any argument. It drove him insane that I wouldn't engage. His tactics escalated. Flowers delivered to my apartment. A new car left in my building's parking garage with a note. You deserve better than that old sedan. Jewelry boxes arriving by courier. All returned unopened. All documented by Patricia as attempted manipulation. He's making himself look worse, she told me during one of our weekly calls. Every gift, every contact attempt, it all supports our case that he's trying to coerce you back. Judges don't like that. How much longer until we go to court? He can stall for months if he wants to be difficult. But I don't think he will. Preston Jenkins is a man who likes to control the narrative. The longer this drags out, the more chance details leak to the press. His ego won't allow that. She was right. By the end of week 3, Preston's offer jumped to $1.5 million, the Miami condo and the art collection. No NDA required. He's folding, Patricia said with satisfaction. Do you want to accept? I thought about it. The money would set me up comfortably while I rebuilt my business. The condo I could sell or rent out for passive income. The art was mine anyway, pieces I'd chosen and loved. Yes, but I want one more thing. I want him to admit in writing that the marriage ended due to his infidelity. Not for publication, just for the record. He'll hate that. I know. It took another week of back and forth, but eventually Preston signed. Patricia brought me the final divorce agreement on a Tuesday afternoon. I read every word carefully before signing. How do you feel? She asked as I set down the pen. Free. The divorce wouldn't be final for 60 days, but the hard part was over. Patricia filed the paperwork that afternoon. I went home to my apartment, ordered takeout, and watched a movie I'd been meaning to see for years. Preston had hated comedies, found them lowbrow. So I'd stopped watching them. Now I laughed until my sides hurt at a stupid romantic comedy with a predictable plot. It was perfect. The next morning, I woke to 17 missed calls from Preston's mother. I didn't call back. She'd made her feelings clear weeks ago when she'd sent me a long email about disappointing the family and throwing away a good marriage. I deleted it without finishing. My own mother had stopped calling after I'd told her firmly that my decision was final. We hadn't spoken in 2 weeks. It hurt, but not as much as I'd expected. Some relationships were only strong when you played the role assigned to you. The moment you stepped outside that role, they crumbled. Rochelle, however, was a constant. She checked on me daily, celebrated my small victories, let me vent when Preston did something particularly infuriating. That was real friendship. You seem different, she said over lunch one Saturday. Lighter. Happier. I feel like I've been holding my breath for 5 years and I'm finally exhaling. Any regrets? I considered the question honestly. Only that I didn't leave sooner. That I ignored the red flags before we got married. But I can't change the past. I can only move forward. And how's that going? Better than expected. I showed her photos of the hotel project on my phone. 3 rooms are done. Jennifer is already getting booking requests based on the preview photos I posted. And I got contacted by another potential client yesterday. An executive who saw my work wants me to redesign his company's reception area. Naomi, that's incredible. It's a start. I'm not making Preston-level money, but I'm making enough. And more importantly, I'm making something I'm proud of. That night, I updated my website with photos of the completed hotel rooms. By morning, I had 6 new inquiries. Not all would turn into contracts, but the interest was there. I wasn't a nobody without Preston. I'd never been a nobody. He just convinced me I was. Preston, meanwhile, was dealing with the consequences of his actions. His business partner, Robert Chin, had distanced himself from the company after learning about Preston's affairs. Several major clients had quietly moved their accounts elsewhere. Preston's reputation, built on years of calculated image management, was cracking. I heard about it through the industry gossip mill. Jennifer mentioned it casually during a site visit. Your ex-husband is having quite a time lately. Lost the Sanderson account. Is that significant? It's a $10 million annual contract. But the word is, Sanderson's wife insisted. She didn't want to do business with a man who cheated on his wife so publicly. I felt no satisfaction in Preston's struggles, but I felt no sympathy either. He'd made choices. Now he was living with them. Just like I was living with mine. The difference was, my choices were leading somewhere I wanted to go. His were leading to a life built on lies collapsing around him. 8 weeks after serving divorce papers, I stood in the lobby of Sterling Global Industries, waiting for my appointment with the CEO. The company was massive, one of those corporations with buildings in every major city and investments in everything from tech to real estate to renewable energy. I'd sent my portfolio to their facilities manager on a whim after seeing they were renovating their headquarters. Getting a response was unexpected. Getting a personal meeting with CEO Dominic Laurent was shocking. The elevator opened on the top floor into an office space that was all clean lines and natural light. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Real plants, not fake ones. Art that looked local rather than corporate. Ms. Jenkins? A woman in her 30s approached with a smile. I'm Simone, Mr. Lawrence executive assistant. He's running 5 minutes behind. Can I get you coffee? Water? Water would be great, thank you. She returned with a glass bottle of sparkling water and led me to a conference room. He'll be right with you. Feel free to set up your presentation. I opened my laptop, pulling up the portfolio I'd customized for this meeting. My hands were shaking slightly. This was the biggest potential client I'd ever pitched to, even before Preston. Sterling Global could make my career. Or reject me and I'd be fine, just disappointed. The door opened. I looked up and forgot whatever I'd planned to say. Dominic Laurent was not what I expected. Photos online showed a serious man in expensive suits, always photographed at charity events or business conferences. In person he was taller, maybe 6'2", with deep brown skin and gray threading through his close-cut hair. He wore a blue button-down with the sleeves rolled up and no tie. His handshake was firm, his smile genuine. "Ms. Jenkins, thank you for coming in. I've been looking at your work all morning. The boutique hotel project is impressive." "Thank you. Though I'm surprised you know about it. That project just went public last week. I make it my business to know about talented people." He gestured to a chair. "Please sit. Tell me about your design philosophy." We spent an hour talking. Not pitching, just talking. About how spaces affect people's moods. About the importance of functionality alongside aesthetics. About sustainability and using local materials when possible. Dominic listened intently, asked thoughtful questions, and never once checked his phone. "This building is 70 years old," he said eventually, pulling up architectural plans on a large screen. "Beautiful bones, but the interior is dated. We've been in temporary offices for 6 months while the renovation happens, and every designer we've consulted wants to get everything and start over. Make it all glass and steel and modern. But that's not what I want." "What do you want?" "I want to honor the building's history while making it functional for how we work now. I want people who come here to feel welcome, not intimidated. I want my employees to actually enjoy being in the office instead of working from home all the time." I leaned forward, ideas already forming. "Can I see the original blueprints? Any historical photos of how the building looked when it first opened?" His smile widened. "You're the first designer who's asked for those." We spent another hour going through archived materials. The building had been a publishing house originally, with high ceilings and large windows to let in natural light for reading. The current renovation had lowered the ceilings and blocked off windows for climate control efficiency. "This is a crime," I said, staring at a photo of the original grand lobby. "All this natural light, these architectural details. It's all hidden. Can it be restored?" "Some of it. The ceilings probably, if the structure allows. The windows definitely. It would cost more upfront but save money on lighting and climate control long-term. Plus it would make the space feel twice as large." Dominic looked at me with something like respect. "When can you start?" My heart jumped. "Are you offering me the contract?" "Pending budget approval and contract negotiations, yes. You're the first designer who understood what I was trying to accomplish. Everyone else wanted to make a statement. You want to make a space." We shook hands again. His grip was warm, professional, and lingered just a moment longer than necessary. Not inappropriate, just friendly. I found myself smiling as I packed up my laptop. "My assistant will be in touch about next steps," Dominic said. "But I have a feeling this is going to be a good partnership." Walking out of Sterling Global, I felt electric. This wasn't just a career opportunity. It was validation that I'd made the right choice leaving Preston. That I could build something significant on my own merit. My phone buzzed. "Patricia, divorce is final. You're officially single." I stood on the sidewalk, people rushing past me, and felt the weight of 5 years lift off my shoulders. I was single. I was employed. I was free. That evening, I celebrated with Rochelle over Indian food and too much wine. To new beginnings, Rochelle toasted. To being underestimated, I countered. Preston thought I'd fail without him. Look at me now. Speaking of Preston, have you heard from him since the divorce finalized? Not a word. Patricia said he signed everything and moved on. Probably already dating someone new. Good riddance. Rochelle refilled my glass. So tell me about this CEO. Dominic Laurent. I looked him up. He's gorgeous. He's a client, Rochelle? A single client. Divorced 3 years ago. Self-made billionaire. Known for his integrity and philanthropy. Girl, if you don't at least consider it. I just got divorced. The ink is barely dry on the papers. The last thing I need is another relationship. I'm not saying marry him. I'm saying notice when an attractive, successful, apparently decent man shows interest in you. He hired me for my design skills, not because he's interested. Rochelle gave me a look. Keep telling yourself that. I laughed, but later that night, alone in my apartment, I found myself thinking about Dominic. The way he'd actually listened instead of just waiting for his turn to talk. The way he'd asked about my philosophy before my portfolio. The way he treated me like an equal, not like Mrs. Preston Jenkins or a woman who needed things explained simply. It felt dangerous to even notice those things. I'd just escaped one marriage. I wasn't looking for another relationship, billionaire or otherwise. But I couldn't deny there'd been something in that conference room. A connection, a spark, a mutual respect that I'd never had with Preston. Stop it, I told myself. Focus on the work. Build your career. Prove to yourself and everyone else that you're more than someone's wife. The Sterling Global contract arrived via email the next morning. $10 million project. 12-month timeline. Creative control with CEO approval on major decisions. It was everything I'd hoped for and more. I signed it immediately and sent it back. Then I called Jennifer to let her know I'd need to bring in an assistant for her hotel project. I couldn't handle both alone. Hire whoever you need, Jennifer said. Just don't leave me hanging. We're almost done. I won't. I'll finish what I started. That, I'd learned, was the difference between me and Preston. I finished what I started. I kept my promises. I treated people with respect. And apparently, that was rare enough to be valuable. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Naomi? Brittany's voice, tentative and scared. Please don't hang up. I need to talk to you. I hung up immediately. Blocked the number. Whatever Brittany wanted to say, I didn't need to hear it. That chapter of my life was closed. I'd moved forward and I had no intention of looking back. Rochelle's response when I told her, good. You don't owe her anything. Not forgiveness, not a conversation, nothing. The Sterling Global project officially kicked off 2 weeks later. I assembled a small team, an assistant designer fresh out of school but hungry to learn, and a project manager I'd worked with years ago who was thrilled to come out of retirement for something this significant. Our first official meeting was in Sterling Global's temporary offices. Dominic sat in on it, along with his CFO and head of operations. I presented my initial vision, using the historical photos alongside modern design concepts. The goal is to create a space that honors the building's past while supporting how your company works now, I explained, clicking through renderings. Open floor plans with flexible workspaces, but also private areas for focused work. Natural materials, local art, plenty of light. A building that feels alive, not sterile. The CFO had questions about costs. The head of operations wanted to know about timeline. Dominic just watched me present, a slight smile on his face. After everyone else left, he lingered. Your team looks solid. Thank you. Antonio has 30 years of experience managing large projects, and Keisha is young but talented. She has fresh perspectives I need. And you trust them? Completely. I don't work with people I don't trust. Something flickered across his face. That's wise. I learned that lesson the hard way years ago. We were alone in the conference room. Professional distance said I should leave, get back to my office, start working on the next phase. But something made me stay. Can I ask you something? I said. Why did you choose me? You could have hired any of the big corporate design firms. Instead you picked someone whose biggest project before this was a boutique hotel. Dominic leaned against the table. Because those big firms would have given me what they thought I wanted, not what I actually needed. You listened. You asked questions. You understood that this project isn't about my ego. It's about creating a space where people want to be. Most CEOs do want it to be about their ego. I'm not most CEOs. He met my eyes directly. And you're not most designers. I did my research, Naomi. I know about your divorce. I know you walked away from a lot of money to start over. That takes courage. My stomach tightened. You looked into my personal life? I look into everyone I do business with, not to judge but to understand. Your ex-husband is the kind of man who thinks money solves everything. You're the kind of woman who values integrity over comfort. That's the kind of person I want working on my company's headquarters. I didn't know what to say. Preston had never acknowledged my values, only tolerated them when they didn't inconvenience him. Here was someone who'd hired me partially because of them. Thank you, I said finally, for seeing that. Thank you for being that. He straightened, professional mask sliding back into place. I'll let you get back to work. But Naomi, if you ever need anything, my door is open. Not just for this project. In general. After he left, I sat in the empty conference room for 10 minutes, processing. This felt different from my working relationship with Jennifer. Different from any professional interaction I'd had. Dominic treated me like a peer, an equal, someone whose opinion mattered. It was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. Over the next month, I threw myself into work. The Sterling Global project was consuming in the best way. Every day brought new challenges, new decisions, new opportunities to create something meaningful. My team was incredible. Antonio handled logistics with calm efficiency. My assistant brought fresh ideas that pushed my thinking. Dominic checked in weekly, always respectful of my time but genuinely interested in the progress. Sometimes he'd stop by the building site to see the work in person. We'd walk through the gutted floors, discussing everything from load-bearing walls to color psychology. "You really love this," he observed one afternoon as I excitedly explained my plans for the main lobby. "I do." "Is that obvious?" "Very. It's refreshing. So many people treat work as something to endure. You treat it as something to celebrate." My ex-husband used to say I cared too much about insignificant things. Dominic frowned. "Redesigning a building that thousands of people will use every day isn't insignificant. Creating spaces that improve people's lives isn't insignificant. Your ex was wrong." The casual way he defended my work made my chest tight. He thought real power came from finance and business deals. That design was frivolous. Real power comes from creating value for others. You do that. He just moved money around. Dominic's tone was matter-of-fact, not bitter. "I'm sorry he made you doubt yourself." We stood in what would become the main lobby, surrounded by exposed brick and construction dust, and I felt seen in a way I hadn't in years. "I should get back to the office," I said, breaking the moment. "Need to approve the tile samples for the bathrooms." "Have dinner with me." I froze. "What?" "Dinner. Tonight if you're free. There's a new Caribbean place in Brooklyn I've been wanting to try. We can discuss the project or not discuss the project. Your choice." This was a line. We both knew it. Client and designer was professional. This would be something else. "I don't know if that's a good idea," I said carefully. "Because I'm your client? Because I just got divorced? Because I'm trying to rebuild my life? Because I'm not sure I'm ready for whatever this might be?" Dominic nodded slowly. "That's fair. But for what it's worth, I'm not asking because you're a designer I hired. I'm asking because I enjoy talking to you. Because you're interesting and smart and talented. Because I'd like to get to know you better outside of construction sites and conference rooms. And if I say no? Then we maintain our professional relationship and I respect your boundaries. This doesn't affect the project, Naomi. I promise you that." I believed him. That was the surprising part. I actually believed him. "One dinner," I said. "As friends? Not a date." His smile was warm. "As friends? I'll pick you up at 7. I immediately called Rochelle. "I think I just agreed to have dinner with Dominic Laurent." "About time," she crowed. "What are you wearing?" "It's not a date. He specifically said we can talk about the project or not. It's casual." "Ah. Wear the green dress anyway." I did wear the green dress. Not because it was a date but because it made me feel confident. Dominic arrived exactly at 7 in a sleek but not ostentatious car. He held the door open, didn't try to touch me beyond a brief hand on my lower back as we entered the restaurant. The Caribbean place was small, family-owned, with incredible food and no pretension. We talked about everything except work. His childhood in Atlanta, raised by a single mother who'd worked 3 jobs. My childhood in Philadelphia with parents who'd valued stability over passion. His path to building Sterling Global from nothing. My path to finally chasing my own dreams. "I was married before," he said over jerk chicken. "Elaine. We were together 8 years, married for 5. Divorced 3 years ago. What happened? We grew apart. She wanted a society wife life, charity galas and country clubs. I wanted to build something meaningful. Neither of us was wrong, we just wanted different things. We ended it amicably. She's remarried now, seems happy. No kids. No. She didn't want them, and I wouldn't bring children into a relationship that wasn't solid." He paused. "What about you and Preston?" "No kids. Thank God. I can't imagine trying to co-parent with him." I took a sip of wine. "We didn't grow apart. We were never really together. I was who he wanted me to be, not who I actually was. The moment I tried to be myself, everything fell apart. Then he didn't deserve you." It was a simple statement, not flowery or over the top. But it settled something in my chest that had been unsettled for a long time. We talked until the restaurant closed. When Dominic dropped me off at my apartment, he walked me to the door but didn't try to come in. "Thank you for tonight," he said. "I really enjoyed it." "Me too. More than I expected to." "Does that mean there might be a second dinner?" "Still as friends unless you decide otherwise." I smiled. "Maybe. Let me think about it." He nodded, stepped back, gave me space. That more than anything made me want to say yes immediately. But I held back. I needed to be sure I was doing this for the right reasons. Inside my apartment, I found 3 texts from Rochelle. How'd it go? Did he kiss you? Answer me. I called her. It was perfect. And no, he didn't kiss me. He was a complete gentleman. Boring. Respectful. There's a difference. Rochelle, I think I actually like him. Of course you do. He's everything Preston wasn't. Respectful, interested in you as a person, successful without being arrogant. That's what scares me. What if I'm just rebounding? What if I'm drawn to him because he's different from Preston, not because we're actually compatible? Or what if you're drawn to him because he's a good person who treats you well and you deserve that? Stop overthinking. Just see where it goes. She was right. I was overthinking. But after Preston, after everything, I couldn't help being cautious. I'd rebuilt my life carefully, piece by piece. I didn't want to risk it on someone unless I was sure. The next morning, I sent Dominic a text. I'd like that second dinner. But I need us to be clear about something. I'm not looking for a relationship right now. I'm focused on my career and figuring out who I am outside of being someone's wife. If that's not okay, I understand. His response came quickly. That's more than okay. I'm not trying to rush anything. Let's just enjoy getting to know each other. No pressure, no expectations. And that's what we did. Over the next 2 months, we had dinner once a week. Sometimes we talked about work, sometimes about everything else. He told me about his goals for Sterling Global, his passion for renewable energy. I told him about my dreams of expanding my design firm, maybe teaching workshops for young designers. He never pushed for more than I was ready to give. Never tried to kiss me or hold my hand or cross boundaries I'd set. He just showed up, consistently, honestly, treating me with the kind of respect I'd never experienced in a relationship before. And slowly, carefully, I started to fall for him. 4 months into the Sterling Global project, the lobby renovation was complete. The space was stunning, even if I said so myself. Original details restored, modern touches added thoughtfully, natural light flooding through cleaned and repaired windows. It felt like walking into history and future simultaneously. We threw a reveal party for the company. 200 employees gathered to see their new workspace. The reaction was everything I'd hoped for. People gasped, smiled, pulled out phones to take photos. Several came up to thank me personally for creating something beautiful. Dominic stood beside me the entire evening, quietly proud. You did this, he said softly as we watched people explore. You made them happy. We did this. It was your vision. My vision, your talent. That's what makes a good partnership. Partnership. The word hung between us, heavy with meaning beyond the professional. After the event, as the space cleared out, Dominic touched my elbow. Walk with me. We rode the elevator to the roof. The building had a terrace I'd redesigned, turning it from a forgotten storage space into a garden oasis. Trees and planters, native flowers, benches for employees to take breaks. The city spread out below us, lights twinkling in the dusk. I need to tell you something, Dominic said. We stood at the railing, not touching but close enough that I could feel his warmth. These last few months, getting to know you, watching you work, spending time together. It's been the best part of my year. My heart started beating faster. Dominic. Let me finish. I know you said you're not looking for a relationship. I respect that. But I'd be lying if I said my feelings haven't changed. I'm not just interested in being your friend anymore, Naomi. I'm interested in being more. If you're ready. If you want that too. I turned to face him fully. His expression was open, vulnerable, honest. Everything Preston had never been. I'm scared, I admitted. I just got out of a marriage where I lost myself completely. I'm still figuring out who I am. What if I do that again? What if I change myself to fit what you want? Then I'd tell you to stop. Naomi, I don't want you to be anyone except who you are. That's who I'm interested in. The woman who fights for her vision, who cares about details, who left a billionaire because she valued her integrity more than his money. That woman. Not some version you think I want you to be. And if it doesn't work out, then we'll handle it like adults. No drama, no bitterness, no destroying what we've built professionally. I can promise you that. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and took my hand. But I think it will work out. Because I think we're both people who show up honestly, who communicate, who treat each other with respect. That's more than most relationships have going for them. I looked down at our joined hands. His was warm, steady, solid. I think I'm falling for you too. I have been for weeks. I've just been too afraid to admit it. You don't have to be afraid with me. That's exactly what scares me. With Preston there was always tension, always some part of me on guard. With you I feel safe. And safety feels dangerous after everything I've been through. Dominic squeezed my hand gently. I understand that. Take whatever time you need. I'm not going anywhere. But I'd already decided. Life was too short to let fear make all my decisions. I'd left Preston, rebuilt my career, proved I could stand on my own. Now I wanted to see what it felt like to stand with someone who actually deserved to be beside me. I don't need more time, I said. I want to try this. With you. For real. He smiled and it transformed his whole face. Yeah. I laughed at the happiness in his expression. But we're taking it slow. No rushing into anything. I need to maintain my independence. Absolutely. We'll go at whatever pace feels right. He hesitated. Can I kiss you now? Yes. It was nothing like kissing Preston. There was no possessiveness, no sense that he was claiming me. Just warmth and gentleness and a question in every movement, making sure I was okay, that I wanted this. I kissed him back with 5 months of repressed feelings pouring out. When we broke apart, we were both breathless. Wow, Dominic said. Yeah, I agreed, laughing. Wow. We stayed on the roof for another hour talking about what this meant, what we both wanted. He'd been single for 3 years, focused on building his company. I'd been single for 5 months, focused on rebuilding myself. We were both ready for something real, something healthy, something built on mutual respect. I want you to know, I said eventually, that I'm not interested in your money. I don't need you to buy me things or take care of me financially. I have my own career, my own income. I'm with you because of who you are, not what you have. I know that. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. That's one of the things I love about you. You see me, not my bank account. Do you know how rare that is? Preston used to say women only wanted him for his money. Preston was projecting. He probably only wanted women for shallow reasons and assumed everyone else was equally transactional. Dominic's voice was calm, matter-of-fact. But that's not how real relationships work. Real relationships are about partnership, respect, shared values. What you and I are building. That's real. I believed him. That was the truly revolutionary part. After Preston, after all his lies and manipulation, I doubted my ability to trust anyone. But Dominic had proven himself consistently over months. He'd never lied, never manipulated, never made me feel small. He'd just shown up as himself and let me be myself. We started officially dating after that night. Still taking it slow but no longer hiding what we were to each other. Rochelle was thrilled. Finally. I've been waiting for you two to figure it out. Were we that obvious? Girl, yes. The way he looks at you? Like you're the most fascinating person in the world. And the way you light up when he's around? Everyone could see it except you two. My mother called a week later. We hadn't spoken in months, not since the divorce finalized. I heard you're dating someone new. Word travels fast. Is it serious? It might be. Why? She sighed. I was wrong, Naomi. About Preston, about the divorce, about everything. Your father and I talked and we realized we pushed you to stay in a bad marriage because we were thinking about money and status instead of your happiness. I'm sorry. The apology caught me off guard. Thank you for saying that. This new man, is he good to you? Very good. He treats me like a partner, not property. Then I'm happy for you. Truly. She paused. Can we start over? I miss my daughter. We talked for an hour, really talked, maybe for the first time in years. It didn't erase the hurt of her earlier dismissal, but it was a start. Relationships could heal if both people were willing to do the work. Dominic and I fell into an easy rhythm. Dinners twice a week. Working on the Sterling Global project together. Weekend mornings at the farmer's market. Simple things that felt profound because they were built on genuine connection. 3 months into officially dating, he took me to meet his mother. She lived in a modest house in Atlanta despite Dominic's offers to buy her something bigger. I don't need bigger, she said firmly. She was a tiny woman with Dominic's eyes and a smile that could light up a room. I need what makes me happy. This house has good memories. I liked her immediately. She asked about my work, my goals, my family. Not in a judgmental way but with genuine curiosity. Over Sunday dinner, she pulled me aside while Dominic was clearing dishes. My son is happy with you. Happier than I've seen him in years. Thank you for that. He makes me happy too. Good. That's how it should work. Equal joy, equal effort. She squeezed my hand. He's a good man. I raised him to be. But don't let him work too hard. He forgets to rest sometimes. I've noticed. I'm working on that. She laughed. Then you two will do just fine. That night, driving back to the city, Dominic reached over and took my hand. My mom loves you. I love her. She's wonderful. She said you're good for me. That I seem lighter. You are good for me too. You make me feel like I can be myself without apology. You never have to apologize for being yourself. Not with me. Not with anyone. 6 months into our relationship, Dominic asked me to move in with him. No pressure. Keep your apartment if you want. But I have space and I love waking up next to you on the mornings you stay over. It would be nice to make that permanent. I thought about it seriously. Not because I doubted him, but because I needed to make sure I wasn't repeating old patterns. Moving in with Preston had meant giving up my independence. Would this be different? Can we set some ground rules? I asked. I keep my business completely separate. I pay my own bills. We split household expenses equally. My career is as important as yours. Of course. Naomi, I don't want to take care of you like you're helpless. I want to build a life with you as equals. That means respecting your independence, your career, your choices. Then yes, I'll move in. His smile was worth every risk I was taking. Really? Really? But I'm keeping my apartment for 6 months. Just as a safety net. If you turn out to be a secret villain, I need an escape plan. He laughed. Fair enough. Though I promise no secret villain plans. Moving in together was surprisingly easy. We both worked long hours so we understood when the other needed space. We split cooking and cleaning without arguing about it. He had his office, I had mine. We came together at the end of the day to share meals and talk about our work. It was everything my marriage to Preston hadn't been. Partnership. Respect. Joy. 8 months after we started dating, Dominic proposed. We were back on the roof terrace at Sterling Global, now complete and open to all employees. It was evening, the city lights spreading below us like stars. I know this might seem fast, he said, getting down on one knee. But I've never been more sure of anything. You're my partner in every way that matters. You make me better. You challenge me to be more thoughtful, more present. I love you, Naomi. Not because you're convenient or because you fit some image of what my life should look like. I love you because you're you. Marry me. Build a life with me. As equals, as partners, as people who choose each other every day. The ring was perfect. Simple, elegant, not ostentatious. Just like everything else about us. Yes, I said, tears streaming down my face. Yes, absolutely yes. He stood and kissed me and I felt the final pieces of my old life fall away. I wasn't Mrs. Preston Jenkins anymore. I wasn't defined by my divorce or my struggles. I was just Naomi, a woman who'd found real love with a man who valued her for exactly who she was. We got married 2 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Nothing like my first wedding, which had been huge and showy and all about Preston's image. This one was intimate and meaningful and all about commitment between two people who actually knew and loved each other. Rochelle was my maid of honor. Dominic's mother cried through the entire ceremony. My parents came and apologized again for not supporting me during the divorce. We all started fresh that day. The wedding made the news. Not because we wanted it to, but because Dominic was a public figure. The headlines were variations on the same theme. Self-made billionaire marries interior designer, and Sterling Global CEO ties the knot. And in smaller papers and gossip columns, there was another story, Preston Jenkins' ex-wife marries richer man. Those made me laugh. Not because Dominic was richer, though he was. But because they missed the point entirely. I didn't marry Dominic for his money. I married him because he saw me as a person, not an accessory. Preston's reaction to the news would become its own story. But on my wedding day, I didn't think about him at all. I was too busy being happy. The morning of my wedding, I woke up in Rochelle's guest room surrounded by sunlight and the smell of coffee. No nerves, no second thoughts. Just pure, uncomplicated happiness. You're glowing, Rochelle said, bringing me breakfast in bed. Actually glowing. It's disgusting how happy you look. I laughed. Is this what healthy relationships feel like? Just being excited instead of anxious. Yes, girl. This is what you deserve. What you should have had all along. My dress hung on the closet door. Not a designer gown that cost more than a car. Just a beautiful, simple dress in cream with red flowers embroidered along the hem. I'd found it at a small boutique, loved it immediately, bought it the same day. No months of deliberation or trying to impress anyone. The wedding was at a historic mansion in upstate New York. 50 guests, all people we actually cared about. The ceremony would be outside, weather permitting, followed by dinner and dancing inside. Personal, intimate hours. My mother helped me get ready. We'd rebuilt our relationship slowly over the past year. She'd never be perfect, but she was trying. That counted for something. You look beautiful, she said, fastening my necklace. Different from your first wedding. I'm different from my first wedding. Yes, you are. Stronger. More yourself. She met my eyes in the mirror. I'm proud of you, Naomi. For leaving when it got hard. For building something new. For not settling. It was the first time she'd said those words. I hugged her, careful not to wrinkle my dress. Dominic's mother arrived next with Rochelle's help, since she was getting on in years. She took my hands and smiled. My son is the luckiest man alive. You know that, right? I think I'm pretty lucky too. That's what makes this good. You both know how fortunate you are to have found each other. She produced a small box. This was my grandmother's. Dominic's grandfather gave it to her when they got married. I want you to have it. Inside was a simple gold bracelet, worn with age but beautiful. I can't take this. You can. Your family now. This is what we do. We pass things down to the people we love. I put it on and it felt like a blessing. The ceremony itself was perfect. Simple vows we'd written ourselves, promising partnership and respect and honesty. Dominic cried when I walked down the aisle. Not embarrassed tears, just genuine emotion that he didn't hide. When the officiant pronounced us married, we kissed and the small crowd erupted in applause. My design partner from the hotel project was there, along with Jennifer and several other clients who'd become friends. Antonio and his assistant had come. Dominic's business colleagues and close friends filled out the rest. Everyone there genuinely cared about us. At the reception, Dominic's mother gave a toast. When Dominic told me he was dating someone, I was happy. When he told me he was serious about her, I was hopeful. When he told me he wanted to marry her, I was grateful. Because Naomi isn't just good for my son. She's good, period. She's talented and strong and kind. She makes him better and he makes her better. That's what marriage should be. Rochelle's toast was shorter. I've known Naomi since high school. I watched her lose herself in her first marriage. And I watched her find herself again after. Dominic, thank you for seeing her, all of her, and loving what you see. Naomi, thank you for being brave enough to try again. You two give the rest of us hope. We danced until my feet hurt. Ate amazing food. Laughed with friends. At one point, I looked around at the celebration and felt overwhelmingly grateful. This was my life now. Real love, real friends, real happiness. Late in the evening, Dominic and I snuck away to a quiet corner of the garden. The party continued inside, music drifting out through open doors. Happy? He asked, pulling me close. Incredibly. You. More than I knew was possible. He kissed my forehead. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Thank you for being worth the risk. We stayed there for a while, just holding each other before heading back to our wedding. Our guests, our celebration, our beginning. The next morning, news of our wedding was everywhere. Not just in society pages but in business sections, celebrity gossip sites, even trending on social media. Photos of us dancing, laughing, kissing. The press was mostly positive, focusing on the romantic story of two successful people finding love. But there were other stories too. Stories about Preston. According to multiple sources, he'd seen the wedding announcement and lost control completely. Threw a crystal decanter through his office window. Screamed at employees. Called me names I won't repeat. His board of directors had called an emergency meeting to discuss his increasingly erratic behavior. Let me see, I said to Rochelle, who was reading the articles on her phone. Are you sure? Some of this is ugly. I'm sure. Preston had given an interview to a financial magazine. In it, he claimed I'd been a gold digger who left him for someone richer. That I'd never loved him, only his money. That I'd manipulated Dominic into marriage to secure my financial future. I read the whole thing twice. Then I laughed. Why are you laughing? Rochelle looked concerned. He's saying terrible things about you. Because it's so clearly projection. He married me because I looked good on his arm and made him feel powerful. I was an accessory to him, just like those women he cheated with. He can't comprehend that someone might value things other than money, so he assumes everyone is as shallow as he is. My phone rang. Patricia, my divorce attorney. Have you seen the interview? Just read it. Do you want to respond? I can draft a statement. We could sue for defamation. I thought about it. The old Naomi would have been terrified of public scandal, would have wanted to hide. But I wasn't that woman anymore. No statement. No lawsuit. Let him embarrass himself. Anyone who knows me knows the truth. Everyone else, their opinion doesn't matter. You're sure? This kind of press can be damaging. I'm sure. Preston is doing what Preston does best, making everything about him. I'm not going to play that game anymore. I've moved on. He should too. Dominic agreed with my decision. Responding would just give him more attention. He's spiraling. Let him. And spiral Preston did. Over the next 2 weeks, more stories emerged. His company was in trouble. Major clients had left. His board was discussing removing him as CEO. The woman he'd been cheating with, Brittany, had sold her story to a tabloid, revealing details of their affair and how Preston had promised to leave me for her, then refused when I actually left him. She's not getting sympathy, Rochelle reported. People think she's just as bad as he is. Maybe worse since she was your friend. I felt nothing reading Brittany's interview. No anger, no hurt, nothing. She was a stranger to me now. They both were. Meanwhile, my life moved forward beautifully. The Sterling Global headquarters was complete and winning design awards. I'd been featured in 2 major architecture magazines. New clients were reaching out constantly. My little interior design business had become a respected firm with 3 full-time employees and a waiting list. Dominic and I settled into married life easily. We both worked hard but made time for each other. Weekend trips to the mountains. Weeknight dinners where we cooked together. Quiet evenings reading in the same room. Simple, real good. 3 months after our wedding, I was offered a teaching position at a prestigious design school. 1 day a week, working with students who wanted to enter the field. It was everything I dreamed about. You should take it, Dominic said when I told him about the offer. It doesn't pay much. And it'll take time away from the firm. So, you've always wanted to teach. Money isn't an issue. And your team can handle things 1 day a week. This matters to you, Naomi. Do things that matter. I accepted the position. My first class was terrifying and wonderful. 20 eager students who saw me as someone who'd made it, who had wisdom to share. I taught them about design, yes, but also about valuing their work, negotiating contracts, maintaining their integrity in an industry that often prioritized money over artistry. One student, a young woman named Tasha, stayed after class. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. I read about your divorce. About how you left your rich husband and started over. How did you know you were making the right choice? I thought about my answer carefully. I didn't know for sure. I just knew staying was definitely the wrong choice. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes you have to trust that anything is better than staying somewhere you're not valued. What if you'd failed? What if you couldn't rebuild your career? Then I would have figured something else out. But at least I would have tried. At least I would have bet on myself instead of settling for being someone's accessory. I looked at her directly. Why are you asking? My boyfriend wants me to quit school. Says I should focus on supporting his career instead of chasing my own dreams. He says it's practical. Do you want to quit? No. But he says if I love him, I'll do this for us. Love doesn't ask you to make yourself smaller. Love doesn't demand you give up your dreams. Real love supports you in becoming more yourself, not less. Anyone who asks you to quit something you love doesn't have your best interests at heart. She nodded slowly. That's what I thought. But everyone says compromise is important in relationships. Compromise is important. But compromise means both people give a little, not one person giving up everything. What's he compromising? Nothing. He says his career is more important because he'll make more money. Then he's not your partner. He's someone who wants to use you. There's a difference. Tasha left looking thoughtful. I hoped she'd make the right choice for herself. The conversation reminded me how far I'd come, how different my life was now. That night, I told Dominic about it. Was I too harsh? Should I have stayed neutral? You told her the truth. That's not harsh, that's kind. She needed to hear it from someone who's been there. I just don't want her to make the same mistakes I did. Then you're a good teacher. You pulled me close. And for the record, I'm grateful you made those mistakes. Because they led you here. To me. To us. That's a generous way of looking at it. It's the truth. Everything you've been through shaped you into the woman I love. I wouldn't change any of it because changing it might mean we never met. 4 months into our marriage, we talked about the future. Kids maybe. Expanding my business. Dominic's plans to open Sterling Global offices internationally. We had options, possibilities, a whole life stretching ahead of us. I never thought I'd be this happy, I admitted one Sunday morning over coffee. After Preston, I thought maybe this kind of relationship didn't exist. That everyone was just pretending or settling. It exists. It's just rare. You have to find someone who values the same things you do. Someone who sees partnership as addition, not subtraction. Someone who makes you more yourself, not less. You did that for me. Made me more myself. You did it for yourself. I just had the good sense not to get in your way. That was the thing about Dominic. He never took credit for my growth. Never acted like he'd saved me. He just supported me while I saved myself. Preston's spiral continued in the background of my happiness. His company filed for bankruptcy. His mansion went up for sale. According to gossip sites, he was dating a woman 20 years younger and telling anyone who'd listen that I'd ruined his life. Should we be worried? I asked Dominic. He's pretty unstable right now. My security team is aware. If he tries to contact you or shows up anywhere you are, they'll handle it. But honestly, I think he's more interested in self-destruction than revenge. He's not dangerous, just pathetic. I felt a twinge of something. Not pity exactly, but acknowledgement that a human being was suffering, even if he'd brought it on himself. I hope he figures his life out eventually. Get some help. That's generous of you. It's not for him. It's for me. I don't want to carry anger around. I want to focus on what I have, not what I left behind. Then that's what we'll do. 6 months after my wedding to Dominic, Preston's fall from grace was complete. His company, Jenkins Capital, officially declared bankruptcy. The penthouse was sold at auction. His car collection was liquidated. Every piece of his carefully constructed empire crumbled. I learned about it through the news like everyone else. Headlines screamed about the once mighty billionaire brought low by his own arrogance and poor business decisions. Some articles blamed the divorce, claiming the settlement had bankrupted him. That was laughable. The $1.5 million I received wouldn't even dent his fortune at its height. His problems were entirely self-inflicted. The truth, according to financial analysts, was that Preston had been making increasingly reckless investments. After our divorce, after I married Dominic, Preston's behavior became more erratic. He made bad deals trying to prove he was still powerful. Alienated business partners. Ignored his board's advice. Made decisions based on ego rather than strategy. He's self-destructing, Rochelle said over lunch one day, showing me another article on her phone. This is just sad now. I scanned the piece. Preston had been photographed at 3 a.m. outside a club, clearly intoxicated, yelling at photographers. The man in the photos looked nothing like the polished billionaire I'd married. He'd aged 10 years and 6 months. His suit was wrinkled. His eyes were wild. I almost feel bad for him, I admitted. Don't. He made every single one of these choices. She was right, but it was still strange watching someone I'd once loved completely unravel. The worst part came 2 weeks later. Brittany, the woman Preston had been cheating with, gave another interview. This one was different from her first tabloid story. This one was in a major magazine with professional photos and a sympathetic headline, "The Other Woman Speaks Out." In the interview, Brittany painted herself as a victim. Preston had pursued her, she claimed. Made her believe he was leaving me. When I filed for divorce, he promised they'd be together, then refused to be seen with her publicly because it would damage his reputation. She claimed he'd used her and then discarded her when I married Dominic. This is some revisionist history, Rochelle said when we read it together. She was sleeping with your husband in your bed. Now she wants sympathy? The interview also revealed that Brittany had tried to contact me multiple times. Calls, texts, emails, all blocked. She claimed she wanted to apologize, to explain, to make amends. Should I respond? I asked Dominic that evening. Tell my side. Do you want to? Part of me does. Part of me wants everyone to know the truth. That she wasn't some innocent victim. That she knew exactly what she was doing. And the other part? The other part wants to leave the past alone. Move forward. Not get dragged back into that mess. Dominic was quiet for a moment, then said, "You know what I think? I think responding makes you a character in their story. Right now you've moved on. You have a successful career, a happy marriage, a whole life they're not part of. Getting involved again pulls you back into their drama. Is that worth it?" He was right. I drafted a brief statement through Patricia. I have no interest in relitigating the past. I wish everyone involved the peace and growth they need to move forward. I will not be commenting further on this matter. It was the perfect response. Professional, final, giving nothing away. Meanwhile, Preston's attempts to contact me escalated. Letters arrived at my office, all unopened and forwarded to Patricia. Voicemails on my business line, all saved as evidence but not listened to. He even tried to contact my parents, begging them to convince me to help him. He says he's bankrupt, my mother told me hesitantly when she called. That he needs money. He wanted to know if you'd consider a loan. I laughed out loud. He wants me to loan him money? After everything? I told him absolutely not. But he's very persistent. Says you're his wife. Ex-wife. Very ex. And no, I won't be loaning him anything. My father got on the phone. He mentioned something about the divorce settlement being unfair. That you took advantage of him when he was vulnerable. He signed everything willingly, with his own lawyers present. There was nothing unfair about it. I paused. And even if there had been, it wouldn't matter. He made his choices. He has to live with the consequences. After that call, I blocked my parents for a week. Not because I was angry with them, but because I needed them to understand I would not be discussing Preston with them. When I finally unblocked them and we talked, they agreed not to pass along any more messages from him. The real turning point came in month 7. Preston showed up at Sterling Global. Security called Dominic immediately. I was in a meeting when Dominic texted, "Preston's here. Security has him in lobby. Do not come down." My stomach dropped. "He's here? At your building?" "He demanded to see you." Security said no. "He demanded to see me." "I'm going down with my head of security. Stay where you are." I stayed in the conference room with my design team, but I couldn't focus on the presentation. My phone was in my hand waiting for updates. 20 minutes later, Dominic called. "He's gone. Police escorted him off the property. He's been banned from the building and surrounding block." "What did he want?" "He wanted me to convince you to give him money. He claimed the divorce settlement was everything he had, that he's homeless and broke because of you." When I said no, he started yelling. That's when security called the police. That night at home, Dominic showed me the security footage. Preston looked terrible. Rumpled clothes, greasy hair, wild eyes. He'd aged dramatically. The confident billionaire was gone, replaced by someone desperate and unhinged. "He's claiming you destroyed his life," Dominic said quietly. "I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped participating in his version of reality." "I know that. I'm just warning you, he's fixated on you as the source of all his problems. My security team is concerned he might escalate." I felt ice in my stomach. Escalate how? They don't know. But they want to increase your security. Personal bodyguard when you're working on sites, enhanced security at the apartment building, monitoring of his known locations. It felt excessive, but I agreed. Better safe than sorry. The bodyguard's name was Simone, a no-nonsense woman in her 40s who'd worked protection detail for years. She was discreet, professional, and surprisingly easy to have around. Clients barely noticed her presence. 2 weeks with Simone and nothing happened. No Preston sightings, no attempts at contact. Maybe he'd finally given up. Then I got a call from Brittany. She'd somehow gotten my direct office line. "Naomi, please don't hang up. I need to warn you about Preston." Against my better judgment, I stayed on the line. "What about him?" "He's planning something. I don't know what exactly, but he's obsessed with you. He talks about you constantly. About how you humiliated him, how you took everything from him. He's not rational anymore, Naomi. I'm worried he might try to hurt you." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I'm not a complete monster despite what you think. I made terrible choices. I hurt you. But I don't want you to get hurt physically because of him." "What exactly is he planning?" "I don't know. He doesn't tell me things anymore. We're not together. But I've heard him on the phone talking about teaching you a lesson, making you understand what you did to him. It scares me." I thanked her coldly and hung up. Then I called Dominic and repeated the conversation. "I'll have my security team investigate," he said immediately. "In the meantime, stay vigilant. Don't go anywhere alone. Simone stays with you at all times." 3 days later, Preston was arrested. He'd been caught outside my old apartment building at 2 a.m. with bolt cutters and a duffel bag. When police searched the bag, they found zip ties, duct tape, and a folder of photos of me. All recent, all taken without my knowledge. He'd been stalking me for weeks. The charges were serious. Stalking, attempted breaking and entering, possession of burglary tools. His lawyer tried to argue he was just emotional about the divorce, but the evidence was overwhelming. Preston had been planning something and it wasn't good. He was denied bail due to flight risk and the severity of the charges, which meant he'd be in jail awaiting trial for months. "It's over," Dominic said the night after Preston's arrest. "He can't hurt you now." I sat on our couch processing everything. My ex-husband had been planning to break into my old apartment. To do what? Confront me? Hurt me? The folder of photos suggested something more sinister than just wanting to talk. "I never thought he'd go this far," I said quietly. "People do crazy things when their ego is threatened." Preston built his entire identity on being powerful and in control. You took that control away when you left. He couldn't handle it. Brittany saved my life by warning me. Maybe. Or maybe security would have caught him anyway. Either way, you're safe now. Preston's trial happened 4 months later. I didn't attend, but Patricia kept me updated. The evidence was overwhelming. Photos of me, detailed logs of my schedule, plans sketched out in notebooks. The prosecution argued Preston had been planning to kidnap me, possibly hurt me as revenge for leaving him. He was convicted on all counts. Sentenced to 5 years in prison with mandatory psychiatric evaluation and treatment. When Patricia told me the verdict, I felt nothing. No relief, no satisfaction, no pity. Just a strange emptiness where Preston used to live in my mind. It's really over, I said to Dominic that night. How do you feel? Tired? Grateful? Ready to stop looking over my shoulder. I leaned against him. And ready to focus completely on our life. No more past haunting us. No more past, he agreed. Just future. Preston's conviction made headlines briefly, but public interest faded quickly. He was yesterday's news. A cautionary tale about ego and entitlement. Nothing more. Brittany disappeared from public view entirely. Last I heard, she'd moved to another state, changed her name, was trying to start over. I hoped she'd learned something from the whole disaster. As for me, I finished several major design projects that year. Won 2 prestigious industry awards. Expanded my firm to 6 employees. Started teaching a second class at the design school. Built a life so full and rich that Preston was just a footnote, a brief chapter in my history that led to something better. 5 years after leaving him, I barely remembered what it felt like to be Mrs. Preston Jenkins. That woman seemed like a stranger. Someone I'd once known but no longer recognized. I was Naomi Laurent now. Designer, teacher, wife, business owner. A woman who'd rebuilt herself from the ground up and proved that you don't need someone else's money or status to matter. You just need to value yourself enough to walk away from anything that makes you less. That was the real revenge. Not Preston going to jail or losing his money. But me being happy, successful, and free. Living well really was the best payback. 2 years after Preston's conviction, my life looked nothing like it had during my first marriage. I woke up each morning in a home filled with light and love, next to a man who treated me as his equal. My business thrived. My students flourished. I'd built something real and lasting, all on my own merit. The design firm had grown to 10 employees. We'd moved into a larger office space in Manhattan, with big windows and collaborative work areas. My portfolio included projects across the country. Hotels, corporate headquarters, restaurants, even a museum renovation that had won national recognition. I'd been featured in design magazines, appeared on panels at industry conferences, and mentored dozens of young designers. The work I'd been doing wasn't just aesthetically beautiful. It was meaningful. It created spaces where people felt comfortable, inspired, alive. Dominic's business had grown too. Sterling Global had expanded internationally with offices in 6 countries. But he'd stayed grounded, never letting success turn him into someone unrecognizable. We both learned the hard way what happened when ambition overtook humanity. On a Tuesday afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. Usually I didn't answer these, but something made me pick up. Naomi? It's your mother. You have my number. Why are you calling from a different phone? I'm at the hospital. Your father had a heart attack. Everything else fell away. I was in my car within 5 minutes, driving to Philadelphia. Dominic was traveling for business but called from London when I texted him. How bad is it? He asked. I don't know yet. Mom sounded scared. I'm catching the next flight back. I should be there by morning. You don't have to cut your trip short. Yes, I do. You need support and I'm your husband. That's more important than any business meeting. My father survived. Bypass surgery followed by weeks of recovery and rehabilitation. My mother stayed by his side constantly, and I visited every day after work. During one of those visits, we finally had the conversation we'd been avoiding for years. I'm sorry, my father said from his hospital bed, for how we treated you during your divorce. For pressuring you to stay with Preston. For caring more about his money than your happiness. You already apologized. We moved past it. No, let me finish. That heart attack made me think about my life. What I valued, what I taught you. I spent so much time chasing financial security that I forgot about everything else. I taught you the same thing. That money and status mattered more than joy or fulfillment. But you figured out that was wrong. You had the courage to leave Preston and build something real. I'm proud of you for that. I squeezed his hand. Thank you. That means a lot. This husband of yours, he's good to you? The best. He treats me like a partner. Values my opinions. Supports my dreams. Then I'm happy for you. Truly. My parents came to visit us in New York after my father recovered. It was the first time they'd seen our home, met Dominic properly outside of the wedding chaos. We had dinner, talked about normal things, laughed together. It felt like healing. Meanwhile, life continued moving forward in beautiful ways. Rochelle and Antonio announced they were expecting a baby. My former assistant Keisha had become a full designer at the firm, with several successful projects under her belt. The student who'd asked me about leaving her demanding boyfriend came back to tell me she'd ended the relationship and felt free for the first time in years. "You saved my life with that advice," Tasha said during office hours. "I didn't save your life. You saved yourself. I just confirmed what you already knew. Still, thank you for being honest, for showing me what a healthy relationship looks like." Small moments like that reminded me why I taught, why I shared my story even when it was uncomfortable. Because representation mattered. Because young women needed to see that you could survive leaving, could rebuild, could thrive. 3 years after marrying Dominic, we started talking seriously about kids. We'd been focused on our careers, on building our life together. But now felt right. "I want to make sure we do this differently than how I was raised," I told him one night. "I don't want to teach our kids that money is the most important thing, or that success is measured by your bank account." Agreed. I want to teach them kindness, integrity, hard work. That they should value people for who they are, not what they have. And I want to make sure any daughters we have know their worth isn't tied to a relationship, that they can be complete people on their own. And any sons know to treat women as equals, as partners. We tried for a year before it happened. The day I saw the positive pregnancy test, I cried happy tears for 20 minutes. Dominic was so excited he immediately started planning the nursery, researching the best pediatricians, reading parenting books. Being pregnant was different than I expected. Harder physically but easier emotionally. I had support. Dominic attended every appointment, took over household chores when I was tired, never made me feel like pregnancy was something I was doing alone. Work continued, though I scaled back my hours as I got further along. My team handled projects beautifully without me micromanaging. I'd built something sustainable, something that didn't require me to work myself to exhaustion. 6 months pregnant, I got a letter from Preston's lawyer. He was up for parole and wanted to apologize to me as part of his rehabilitation program. The letter asked if I'd be willing to meet with him or at least accept a written apology. "Absolutely not," was my immediate response. "You don't have to decide right away," Patricia said when I called her. "Think about it. Would closure help you?" "I have closure. I have a whole life he's not part of. Meeting with him would just open old wounds." "Then say no. You don't owe him anything, including forgiveness." I drafted a brief response. "I acknowledge your letter. I am not interested in a meeting or in receiving further communication. I wish you well in your recovery and hope you find the help you need. Please do not contact me again." It was firm but not cruel. I didn't owe Preston cruelty, but I also didn't owe him access to my life. Dominic agreed with my decision. "He's part of your past. You've moved on. You don't need his apology to be at peace." Our daughter was born on a spring morning, healthy and perfect. We named her Zara, after Dominic's grandmother. Holding her for the first time, I felt a fierce protective love I'd never experienced before. "We're going to do better," I whispered to her tiny, sleeping face. "We're going to teach you to value yourself. To walk away from anyone who makes you small. To build a life that makes you happy, not just looks impressive to others." Dominic stood beside me, one hand on my shoulder, looking at our daughter with awe. "She's perfect. You're perfect. This whole thing is perfect. Not perfect, but real. That's better." Maternity leave was beautiful. Dominic took paternity leave too, wanting to be present for these early months. We stumbled through sleepless nights together, learned to change diapers and interpret different cries. It was exhausting and wonderful. My firm continued running smoothly without me, which was both reassuring and slightly humbling. I'd built something that didn't require my constant presence. That was success. When Zara was 6 months old, I went back to work part-time. 3 days a week with the option to work from home when needed. My team welcomed me back but didn't collapse without me. They'd grown, taken on leadership roles, expanded their skills. "You built something sustainable," Rochelle said when she visited with her own baby, a son named Trevor. "A business that doesn't require you to sacrifice everything. That's rare." I learned the hard way what happens when work becomes your entire identity. Or when a relationship does. Balance matters. We sat in my living room, babies playing on the floor, talking about motherhood and careers and how to do both without losing ourselves. It felt like everything I'd been working toward. A life filled with real relationships, meaningful work, and genuine happiness. 4 years after my divorce from Preston, 5 years after leaving that penthouse, I received a notification. Preston had been released from prison on parole. He'd served his time, completed his mandatory treatment, was apparently a changed man according to the parole board. How do you feel about it? Dominic asked carefully. Nothing. He's someone I used to know. He's not a part of my life anymore. If he tries to contact you, then security will handle it. But I don't think he will. He lost everything trying to punish me for leaving. I imagine he's learned his lesson. I was right. Preston never contacted me. According to gossip I heard through the industry grapevine, he'd moved to Arizona, was working a regular job, living a quiet life. Apparently prison and therapy had actually changed him, made him confront the person he'd been. Good for him, I thought when I heard. Everyone deserves a chance to grow. But that didn't mean I needed to be part of his growth journey. My life was full without him in it. I had a business I'd built from scratch. A husband who treated me as an equal partner. A daughter who was growing up watching a healthy relationship. Friends who supported me unconditionally. Work that mattered. Joy that was real. Sometimes at night, after Zara was asleep and Dominic was reading beside me, I'd think about the woman I used to be. Mrs. Preston Jenkins, living in a penthouse, wearing designer clothes, attending charity galas. That woman had looked successful from the outside but felt empty inside. Now I lived in a comfortable but not ostentatious home. Wore clothes I liked, not clothes designed to impress. Spent my time with people who valued me for myself, not my connections. And I felt full. Complete. Myself. What are you thinking about? Dominic would ask, noticing my distant expression. Just how far I've come. How different my life is now. Better, different? Infinitely better. Real. True. Mine. That was the gift Preston had given me without meaning to. By being so terrible, by making me so miserable, he'd forced me to value myself enough to leave. To rebuild. To create something authentic. I'd wanted revenge when I first left. Wanted him to suffer, to regret losing me, to realize what he'd thrown away. But real revenge wasn't suffering or regret. Real revenge was being happy. Was building a life so good that I never thought about him unless forced to. Real revenge was becoming the woman I was always meant to be. A woman who knew her worth. Who demanded respect. Who walked away from anything that diminished her. Who built success on her own terms. Real revenge was freedom. And I was finally, completely, gloriously free. One afternoon, 7 years after leaving Preston, I stood in front of a design conference room filled with young professionals. I'd been asked to give a talk about building a successful career in a competitive industry. I could have talked about networking or design trends or business strategy. Instead, I told them my story. About losing myself in a marriage. About finding the courage to leave. About rebuilding from scratch. About learning that success without authenticity is just an expensive cage. The best decision I ever made, I told the room full of eager faces, wasn't landing a big client or winning an award. It was choosing myself. Walking away from something that looked perfect but felt wrong. Building something real instead of something impressive. Afterward, a young woman approached me. She reminded me of myself at her age. Uncertain but ambitious. Hungry for success but not sure what kind. How did you know, she asked, that leaving was the right choice? What if you'd been wrong? I thought about it. I didn't know for sure. But I knew staying was definitely wrong. And I knew I deserved better than settling for a life that made me small. That was enough. Were you scared? Terrified. But I was more scared of spending the rest of my life pretending to be happy. Sometimes being scared means you're about to do something brave. She nodded slowly, processing. Then she smiled. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Walking out of the conference, I got a text from Dominic. Dinner's almost ready. Zara's helping. Or hindering. Hard to tell. Come home when you can. Home. The word meant something completely different now than it had in my first marriage. Then, home had been a beautiful prison. Now it was sanctuary. Safety. Joy. I drove through the city, watching the sun set over buildings I'd helped design, heading toward a life I'd built piece by careful piece. No regrets, no looking back, just forward motion toward whatever came next. Preston was somewhere living his life. Brittany was somewhere living hers. And I was here living mine. We'd all moved on, grown, changed. The past was just that, past. My phone rang as I pulled into my parking garage. Unknown number. For a split second I tensed. Then I remembered, I wasn't that scared woman anymore. I was Naomi Lauron. Designer. Teacher. Wife. Mother. Woman who'd rebuilt herself and come out stronger. I didn't answer. Whatever it was could wait or didn't matter at all. Upstairs, Dominic had indeed made dinner with Zara's help. The kitchen was a disaster, flour everywhere, but they were both laughing. Our daughter, now 3 years old, had tomato sauce on her face and pure joy in her eyes. Mama? She ran to me and I scooped her up despite the mess. Did you cook dinner all by yourself? I helped Daddy make pasta. I stirred it. It was very hard work. Dominic kissed my cheek. How was the conference? Good. Emotional. I told them about everything. About leaving Preston, starting over, building the firm. How'd they react? Like they needed to hear it. Especially the young women. I could see myself in their faces, wanting success but not sure what that really means yet. We ate dinner together, the three of us around our kitchen table. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad and conversation. Zara told us about her day at preschool with the elaborate detail only a 3-year-old can manage. Dominic talked about a new renewable energy project Sterling Global was developing. I shared ideas for my next design project. It was ordinary. Beautifully, perfectly ordinary. And that was everything. After Zara was in bed, Dominic and I sat on the couch with tea. No wine because I'd recently found out I was pregnant again. We hadn't told anyone yet, just savoring the secret between us. Boy or girl, what do you think? I asked, hand on my still flat stomach. Healthy. That's all that matters. He covered my hand with his. Though if it's a boy, I hope he grows up to be like his mother. Strong. Brave. Uncompromising about her values. And if it's a girl, I hope she grows up like her father. Kind. Honest. Secure enough not to need to make others small. We're going to do this right, Dominic said softly. Raise kids who know love is about respect, not control. Who understand that real strength is choosing kindness. Who value people over possessions. Yes, I agreed. We are. My phone buzzed with an email. A former client recommending me to a friend for a major project. Then another email, a student thanking me for a letter of recommendation that had helped her land her dream job. Then a text from Rochelle with a photo of Trevor and Zara from their playdate earlier that week. My life was full of connection. Of people who valued me and whom I valued in return. Of work that mattered and relationships that nourished. Of joy that was real, not performed for anyone's benefit. I thought about Preston occasionally. Wondered if he was happy now, if he'd learned anything, if he'd found peace. But mostly I didn't think about him at all. He was a character in a story I'd moved past. A lesson learned. A chapter closed. The doorbell rang, startling us both. It was nearly 10 p.m. Dominic checked the security camera on his phone. It's a delivery. For you. I opened the door to find a courier with a small package. No return address, just my name. I brought it inside carefully, Dominic watching with concern. Inside was a book. A self-published memoir by Preston Jenkins, titled Rebuilding After the Fall, Lessons in Humility. And a note in handwriting I recognized. Naomi, I'm sending this not because I expect you to read it or respond. Just because you deserve to know I finally understand what I did wrong. I spent 5 years blaming you for the consequences of my own actions. Therapy helped me see that clearly. You leaving was the best thing that happened to me even though I couldn't see it then. It forced me to confront who I was. To change. I'm not asking for forgiveness or friendship. Just want you to know I'm grateful. You taught me that nobody owes you their presence, and that losing someone you took for granted is the natural result of taking them for granted. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. Preston. I handed the note to Dominic. He read it carefully, then looked at me. How do you feel? Surprised. Relieved maybe. It's good to know he learned something. Are you going to read the book? I looked at it, this physical evidence of Preston's growth. Then I set it on the shelf without opening it. Maybe someday. But not now. I don't need his story to validate my own. What are you going to do with it? Keep it, I think. Not as a trophy or because I care about his journey. Just as a reminder that people can change. That even the worst situations can lead to growth for everyone involved. Dominic pulled me close. You're remarkably generous. I'm remarkably happy. That makes it easier to be generous. I looked up at him. I spent so much energy hating Preston, fearing him, wanting revenge. But the best revenge was always just living well. Being happy. Moving on so completely that he became irrelevant. And are you? Happy? I thought about my answer carefully, wanting to be truthful. More than I ever imagined possible. I have work I love, a family that fulfills me, friends who support me. I have myself back, Dominic. That's what I lost in my first marriage. My sense of self. And getting that back, building a life as my authentic self, that's worth more than any amount of money or status. I'm glad I get to be part of that life. Me too. You made it safe for me to be myself. To take up space. To have opinions and boundaries. You showed me what partnership actually looks like. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, just holding each other. Outside, the city glowed with lights. Inside, our home was warm and full of love. This was my life now. Real, messy, beautiful mine. The next morning, I donated Preston's book to the library. Let someone else read his story if they wanted. I had my own story to live. At work, I met with my team to discuss our newest project. Designing a shelter for women leaving abusive relationships. It was pro bono work, but it mattered more than any high-paying corporate job ever could. Creating a space where women could feel safe, could start rebuilding, could remember their worth. I want this to feel like hope, I told my designers. Not institutional, not cold. Warm. Safe. A place that says, you deserve beautiful things. You deserve care. You deserve to start over. We worked on it for months, pouring our hearts into every detail. Bright colors, natural light, comfortable furniture. Private rooms where women could feel secure. Common areas where they could build community. Gardens where they could grow things, literally and metaphorically. When it opened, I attended the ribbon cutting. Met some of the women who'd be staying there. Heard their stories of leaving, of fear, of hope. One woman about my age pulled me aside. Thank you, she said simply, for making this beautiful. For showing us we're worth beautiful things. I hugged her, this stranger who was also somehow my sister in survival. You are. Never forget that. Driving home that evening, I thought about the journey. From Mrs. Preston Jenkins, living in a gilded cage, to Naomi Laurent, living in freedom. From woman afraid to leave to woman who built something meaningful from the ashes. From seeking revenge to seeking joy. The revenge I'd wanted so badly in those early days? It had come, but not in the form I'd expected. Not in Preston's suffering or regret, but in my thriving. In my joy. In my absolute refusal to let his actions define my future. Real revenge was being happy. Was building a life so full that the past couldn't touch it. Was becoming someone so completely myself that I no longer recognized the woman who'd once bent herself into impossible shapes to fit someone else's vision. Real revenge was freedom. And I was finally, completely, gloriously free. 10 years after leaving Preston, I stood at another design conference. This time as the keynote speaker. My firm had grown to 20 employees. My work had been featured internationally. I'd published a book about sustainable design. I'd mentored hundreds of young designers. I'd raised 2 children who knew their worth. I'd built a marriage based on mutual respect and genuine love. The organizer introduced me, Naomi Laurent, award-winning designer, entrepreneur, teacher, and advocate for women in design. Please welcome her to the stage. I walked out to applause, looked at the audience full of eager faces and smiled. This was my life now. Purpose, passion, impact, joy. Thank you for that introduction, I began. Before we talk about design, I want to tell you a story about the most important project I ever worked on. It wasn't a building or a hotel or a corporate headquarters. It was myself. I told them about leaving. About rebuilding. About learning that success means nothing if you lose yourself achieving it. About the courage it takes to start over. About the freedom that comes from valuing yourself enough to walk away from anything that diminishes you. The best design project you'll ever work on is your own life, I concluded. Make it authentic. Make it yours. Make it beautiful not because it looks impressive but because it feels true. That's how you build something that lasts. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, dozens of people wanted to talk, to share their own stories of leaving, rebuilding, finding themselves. I stayed for hours, listening, encouraging, witnessing. This was my revenge. Not Preston's downfall but my rising. Not his regret but my joy.